Thanks everyone. This is my book review on the book titled The First Days of School by Harry Kay and Rosemary T. Wong. So in the course of my reading, I had to itemize some stuff and I had to also cover some understanding, which my my work isn't really a verbatim of what was said in the book. I had to also use my knowledge to also explain most of the concept I read. So please pardon that. And also, and I will not try to take your time. I'll try as much as I can to be very snappy. So we have really everything we're going to be looking at will be building effective teachers, effective classrooms, and a successful learner or successful learners. So we have the outline that says number one, we're going to be considering chapter one, which is why you need to succeed on the first days of school. Chapter two, which is what is an effective teacher. Chapter 3, which is how you can be a happy first year teacher. Chapter 4, which is how to close the student gap, achievement gap. Okay. Chapter 5, which is why you should use proven research based practice. Okay. So we go into chapter 1, why you need to succeed on the first days of school. Okay, why you need to succeed on the first days of school. Now, it is also clear, it was also mentioned in the book that the opening days of school establish the foundation for the term. So it means that the opening day of school or the opening days, the first week of school, second week of school, you tell a person how far the school year will go or the school term will go. So the principles I derived while reading, I have the principles here. So number one principle is do not begin the term by improvising. It means you shouldn't think about it. You shouldn't let it be abstract. No, it should be a physical thing. It should be so tangible that your establishment, your procedures, your class routine should be so tangible that the children can touch it. Okay, it should be so tangible. Don't assume the children should know it. Don't assume the children should be aware. Don't assume they've seen it. Okay, like they've pasted it in the wall on the wall. Sorry, so they should just see it and know it, right? No, don't assume. Everything shouldn't be by assumption. Everything shouldn't be by abstraction. Everything should be made physical and tangible for the children to work with. That's the first thing you should do. That's the first principle I discovered. The second principle is that you should plan the opening days deliberately and teach students how the class room should function. Teach them deliberately. Be intentional. Be intentional about how far they should go with the class routine, class procedures. Be so real with it. Don't joke about that because that will you actually tell how far your children will go. It will also help you in terms of classroom management. Now, the last principle I discovered was that procedures should answer the students' questions. Okay, that is, the procedures should answer the questions students will otherwise ask repeatedly. Okay, students always come up with things that will make the class become distractive, okay, and noisy and the rest. But then your procedures, what you carve out, should be what should answer the students' questions. Like in last time we had a routine which was very for me it was very nice. We talk about the signing, right? So you want to ask a question as a student, raise your hand. Teacher, I want to drink water, all those things. You know the signs to give. Now it makes them understand what to do per time. So those procedures should be set in place and it should be done intentionally. Now, I also give my suggestions that on the first day of school, what should we practice? Our practice should be treat the first week as a foundation building week. Treat the first week as the foundation building week, not a revision week as most schools do. That is traditional and generic. The first week of school is for revision. You know what did you learn, all those things. It's good, but then I think we've been doing it at least view. At least I've seen it the past two terms that passed, and so the second term and third term I've seen that we were so intentional about teaching them what we want our class to look like, which is actually helpful. We've been practicing that, so it's a go for us. So, and the next point is on the practice is that teach routines explicitly. Teach routine seriously. I have you demonstrate them. Don't just talk about them. Demonstrate them, like what we did in the last meeting on Friday. Mr. Chase said something about using the toilet. Let the children go out there to see it. They should be able to envision what you are talking about, right? What you are saying, so that they can easily follow suit and not make mistakes on them. Now let the student practice them. They should practice them. That first day, they should practice. Second day, they should. Third day, they should. Fourth day. Don't just say we've done it once, so it is over. No, do it as much as you can, so that it can become a culture for them. So it can become a way of life for them. That once it is time for this is what we do. Once it is time for this is what we do. If you are going to do this is what you want to ask question. What do you do? You want to drink water? What do you do? They should know every bit of it. Now, I said here, correct and reinforce until the routine becomes normal. Correct and reinforce the routine until it becomes a norm in your class. It shouldn't be something that the children will have to guess. What should I do now? It should be something that they already know. So you have to practice. Even when they make mistakes, you practice them. You practice it. So what are those things we should practice? What are those routines we should look onto? Now, when a teacher comes to your class, or when a visitor comes to your class, or when a fellow student or pupil come to your class, what do you do as a person that is in the class? You welcome them. Now, how do you sit? It should also be something we should talk about. Now, the entry and the attendance, that is for all the teachers though, the attendance part. But the entry part, how do you enter the class? When you come to a class, what do? Do you knock, or do you just walk in? Even when the teacher is standing, you do just walk in? No. Now those things should be considered. The materials needed in the class, the assignment, how is it done, when it should be submitted, the transitions. If you want to go to another person's seat as a student, what do you do? How do you stand up? Asking for help. How do you ask for help? Last time we said that if you want to ask questions, you have raise one hand up, one finger up, okay? And then 2 fingers was if you want to get a pen. And 3 fingers if you want to drink water. 3 fingers if you want to drink water. 4 was if you want to ease off. If you want to urinate, like use the toilet. The rest 4 fingers and the rest. Okay. So submission of work. When do you submit your work? It should be a deliberate action impacted on them. That when you come to school, the first thing you do is submit your work. They should know it. They should know it. Now, exit and dismissal. How do you go out from the class? When you're going out of the class, what do you need? We had a routine last time that says you want to go out. Anybody that is found outside without the exit card, they were so. The children were so happy with those things. So we should keep on doing those things with them. Now, I have it that a procedure becomes useful when students can perform it without repeated reminders. Let me say that again. A procedure becomes useful when your learners can perform it without repeated reminders. You don't have to remind them; they just know what to do. Okay, this helps them. This helps the procedure you're giving become what? A culture. Now, how do you go about it? How do you go about making this thing become a culture? One, you explain the culture, the routine. You explain the routine, the procedure to the students. Now, tell students exactly what the routine is and why it matters. Tell students exactly what the routine is and why it matters. Number 2, demonstrate. See, sometimes I like what Ms. Uche said and how she said it, though we've been doing it in Miss View, and I thank God for that. We need to step up the game of demonstration. Show the expected behavior step by step. Show the expected behavior. Even you as a teacher, you put yourself in the scene and act it out for them to see. So when you come out, you bring people outside, bring students, learners outside. Let them be the ones to show, so that they can also act. Even if you don't want to act, they can also act and show the class what should be done at the time. I like what Ms. Ogo used to do. Sometimes she would take the children all over the school to be greeting, and put yourself in the shoe, do it for them to see. Now, number 3 is practice. Allow students to perform the routine. Also allow them to perform it. Let them make the mistake. Correct them. Number 4 says correct. Address mistakes immediately and respectfully. When you see a mistake, this is not how we do it. If you're greeting a child, good morning, and they say, good morning, okay, good morning, Emmanuel. Not Emmanuel, good morning, no. Good morning, Emmanuel. And Emmanuel responds, good morning, sir. That is good. But is it part of the school culture? Is it part of the school routine? Is it part of your routine for the class? No. The response should be, okay. If that was not your routine for the class, you now do what? Correct the child instantly. Don't prolong it. Don't say later. Do it instantly. How are you? Usually has a pattern. If you are being asked how are you, you don't say I am fine. Usually has a pattern which is what, I am blessed and highly favored. So if the child goes as far as saying I am fine, is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. But is it what we want in the school? No, this is not what we want in the school. So you correct the child instantly. Don't give it a deaf ear. Correct it. Now afterwards, after correcting, reinforce. Let the child do that thing you did. Let the child repeat that action. Okay, you can greet the child again. How are you? And then let the child respond. Okay, until the child gets it, it has not been learned, as Mr. Uche used to say. So we have here that a teacher, as a teacher, ask yourself, what classroom problem do you repeatedly correct that could be solved by teaching a procedure? What most of us, we are going to the new class assigned to us. Most of us are still retaining the same class. We and new students are coming to us, and new pupils are coming to us. So we don't really know. I will assume we don't really know how their behaviors, right? But then we know the previous ones. We can curtail those ones so they don't repeat them. But then if we are going with them in the long run, we can now bring in those procedures into our routine. That will also a procedure that will help us a great deal. So um, for chapter 2, we have here that subject knowledge matters, but effectiveness also depends on expectations. Subject knowledge matters, but effectiveness also depends on what? Expectations, management, and mastery. Now let us see something here. Now from chapter 2, we have that what is an effective teacher. Now, effective teacher is not just a person that delivers the syllabus, that delivers the scheme of 4 for the 10. No. Beyond that, beyond that. So we have a place for mastery. We have a place for expected outcomes, right? Now, listen to me. What I discovered here was that number one, we have positive expectations. Now, believe students can learn. Just have this. An effective teacher is a teacher that believes that a student can learn. Nobody is how do I put it now? I don't know, but I think let me use the word olodo. Nobody is olodo. Nobody. Everybody have the ability to learn. So you should also give the place for believing that this child can learn. If you give a positive attitude towards that, it will help your child learn. Number two is communicate high. Your communication level should be high, but then be what? Have realistic expectations. A child cannot count from 1 to 20. You are expecting that the child should count from 1 to 100. No, that expectation is very high. A child cannot count from 1 to 100. You are expecting that a child should count from 1 to 1 million or 1,000. That expectation is very high. You take it bit by bit. That's why I said that you communicate highly, like high expectations, but then let also be realistic. Take the child step by step. So if the child cannot count 1 to 20, you can start with 1 to 10. If the child masters 1 to 10, you prolong it to you now increase it to 1 to 20. If the child cannot count from 1 to 100, you count 20, 20, 20, 1 to 20, 1 to 40, 1 to 60, 1 to 80, then 1 to 100, 1 to 20, 1 to 40, 1 to 60, 1 to 80, then 1 to 100. You can just take it bit by bit. Don't just want to bulk everything into the child. It might make the child just give up. Okay? So you be realistic as a teacher. Even when you are having this faith, be realistic. Now that realistic does not mean that it is not possible. It is possible. But you, as a teacher, you have a work which is to do what? Understand the stages you should take or the levels you should go. Now, next one is do not label students by their current performance. Do not label students by their current performance. Teach towards their potential. Have that understanding. Don't just label a child because the child did not perform well. No. My father used to say that examination is not the true test of knowledge. You don't know the circumstances behind a child. I have written exam before. We all have written exam before. And we know the circumstances sometimes that put us in a fix that we don't just know what to do. Not that sometimes you read and you study very hard, but getting to exam or the day before that, a day before that day, or even in the day of that exam, on the day of that exam, you go into exam hall being devastated. Everything just works like you did not just read anything, So it does not mean that you don't know it. It does not mean that you don't know it. You know it, but the circumstance within that availability is what we are considering. So let this also be a factor we should consider. Also, do not label students, like I said before, do not label students by their current performance. Okay, so you move to classroom management. We have that create an organized environment. Create an organized environment. Let your environment be worthy of learning. Okay, don't just, you know what I mean. Next one is students should know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Be intentional that the child will know that this time, this is what I do. This time. Most of some sorry, but then I understand that sometimes the only thing children knows is break time. The only time children knows or learners knows in their class routine is break time. That's the only time they know. In their timetable, that's the only time they know. That they want it is 12:30, we go to it, 12:20, we go to it. That's the only time they know. Or we go for break, all those things. Now, make the children understand what to do per time. Now, also have good management. Also understand that good management protects learning time. If you know how to manage your time, manage yourself, manage your classrooms, it also protects the time you spend in the class teaching. Okay, teachers should understand that one. I think most of the time this one is really we are really faulty of this one, because most of the time we teach so elaborately that we even forget our timing. We should take note of that. Now the next one is lesson mastery. Now design lesson or learning that helps students understand. Design learning that helps students understand, practice, and demonstrate learning. Don't just design lessons that they will just read and memorize. Do what they should remember. Now, take note of this. I want to pause and say something here. This mastery is not by covering too much. Sometimes I don't know, but I've been saying it, and I will still say it. I don't know how to rush syllabus schemes. I don't know how to teach just to cover up curriculum. I don't know how to. I just want, if it is 10 topics I'm having for that term, and that child can boastfully discover or solve or master 5 topics, I have achieved something for that term. I have achieved something for that term. But going to cover 10 topics when the child is just like half-baked, right? In all the subjects. You do this one, you're just trying to bring everything. They can become confusing. At least we've been there before. They can become confusing. So sometimes you have to pause and even go back. We have to pause and even go back. I know the school might be on our neck to deliver the topics. But then, is it actually working? Is it actually working? You need to understand the culture, the background of these children. You have to understand the levels they are. Sometimes you can factor in time to actually deliver. But then, most assuredly, you should understand that mastery does not come with too much. Mastery does not just come with too much. You're doing this one, doing this one, this one, doing this one, doing this one. It's good. I'm not against that. If you can, you can. But then I'm saying that for me, I try my best to see how best my children, my learners, can as well, they can be more better in at least, even not all, if I cannot cover all, let them be good in at least more than average of the topics I have for the term. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, the goal is not merely lesson completion. That's what I'm trying to say now. The goal shouldn't just be completing lessons, completing syllables. The goal should be evidence of learning. And evidence of learning isn't required or isn't shown by doing so much. Okay, so still on chapter 2, I have here that we have to move from teaching a class to producing learning. We need to move from teaching a class to producing learning. Let me say something. An effective teacher is a teacher that produces learners. While a normal teacher, a generic teacher, a traditional teacher believes that teaching is okay, so he or she tries as much as possible to cover the syllabus. That is teaching. But then, are they really learning? Are they really learning? So they don't have the time to go back on the lesson to teach. They don't have the time to really understand. They don't get feedback. But in this procedure, in this particular effective teaching now, we have it that we understand a place for feedback and reassessment. So I broke down my point into three. I have before the lesson, I have during the lesson, I have after the lesson. What do you do? There are things you do in each of these instances. Before the lesson, what do you do? During the lesson, what do you do? After the lesson, what do you do? So before the lesson, let us talk about before the lesson. I have that clear learning objectives should be set. Let it be known. Have a clear learning objective. We've been doing that, okay? Now, also prepare your material. Prepare your material before you go to the class. Don't just assume that when you get there you will do what you can because you're teaching. No. Sometimes you have that time you used to prepare, you can learn something new while you are preparing. So prepare your thing, your materials. Also have appropriate resources. Have appropriate resources for the class you are teaching. Okay? We have, for example, we have algebra. Algebra for lower primary isn't the same algebra for upper primary. Algebra for upper primary isn't the same algebra for junior secondary. Algebra for junior secondary isn't the same algebra for senior secondary. You should understand this. So your resources should be appropriate for your learners. Even when you want to hype the lesson a little, but then it shouldn't be too um, abstract. It shouldn't be too much that the resources become inappropriate for the learners. Okay? Now, also, you planned your activities. Plan your activities. What will I do when I enter? What will I do when I this? What will be the transition time? How will I have the learners engaged? Plan your activities. Also, anticipate difficulties. That your teaching does not mean people will understand. You can teach the whole lesson, and believe me, nobody will understand. It is not because you did not teach well. It is not because you did not teach well. And it's also not in the part of the learners. Okay, the fault isn't also in the part of the learners. But let us come back. Sometimes understand that this thing might be too much on them. Okay, understand the environment, understand your classroom. Now moving on to the next one, which is what? During the lesson. What do you do during the lesson? Clear explanation. Have a clear explanation during the lesson. Use the simplest ways you can to teach. Teaching and lecturing aren't the same. Sometimes in teaching in the school, we lecture students, pupils, we lecture them. We don't actually teach. So use clear explanation, things they can relate with. Now also, let the student participate. Let the student partake in the lesson. Let it be an engagement. Let it not just be you teaching now or you talking. If you're the only one talking, it means you're delivering a speech. But since teaching is not delivering speech, it has to do with engagement. So the both parties, they have to do what? Talk. They have to discuss. Thank God for what we're doing at Wisville. We try as much as possible to also give the children, the learners, the room to also air out their opinion and give out their solution, what they discovered, what they learned, and the rest. Okay? Now, effective questioning. Give room for questioning. I used to say this thing that no question is absurd, no question is wrong, but we have misleading answers, but we don't have misleading questions. Ask any question. Let the children ask any question, whether it is related to the cause of the day or not. Let them just express themselves. Now you have the time to tell the child if it is not related to the topic. You can tell the child, okay, can we talk about this after the class? Politely, you can tell the class, please, can we talk about this after the class, and have a discussion around things. Now we move to the next one, classroom control, and we have checking for understanding, and we have appropriate support. What are the supports you're going to give when a child does not really understand what you're doing? Okay, because everybody will not understand at the same time, at the same pace. So you have to give room for, or give opportunities where other people will now do what, have the time with you and the rest. So think about those things. Now after the lesson, what do you do after the lesson? Assess learning. Give class exit. Give that's the exit ticket. Give class homework, like the home fun. Let them go back to the house to talk, learn, do, and then discuss. I have a model I have brought into my teaching skill by next time, which is what I'm gonna. By next time I'm gonna deliver that by the grace of God. It's something I want us to pick. I have already established my plan for next time by the grace of God, but this is what I want. Each child in my class, after teaching you, you will go back to the house. I'll give you assignment, no doubt, but you go back to the house, teach 1 or 2 persons. You can teach your mother, you can teach your father, you can teach your junior siblings or your senior siblings, you can teach anybody. But then you record while you are teaching them and send it to me. If a child does not do that every day in my class, or I can do it weekly, maybe every Friday, you go back and do that thing and send it to me. You must do it, record while you're teaching, because you must be able to teach others. If you're not able to teach others, it means you did not learn anything. So the child should be able to understand that this is what I want after my class. They should know that already. Now, identify struggling students. Identify while you are teaching, or after teaching, sorry, you identify who and who really understood what you taught, who didn't understand, and give them time, have time for intervention. Now, correct misconceptions. Now, there are so many misconceptions all around the world, right? Over the internet, everybody just come up with things they don't really know, just because they have the mic and they have the internet space. So you have the right to correct that impression in your class. Okay. Now provide remedial action. That is in terms of the interventions. Now, okay, you can give more work to the child who is struggling, and you can give special time and the rest. Now reflect on the lesson after every lesson. Go back to talk about it. Go back, make the learners understand what to do. Just give a summary of the class. You can even call somebody to come and summarize it for you, since they were there. You can call a child to come and summarize that lesson for you. It's still a way of testing the child's knowledge. So I have here at my footnote that instead of did I finish my lesson, ask yourself this question: what evidence do I have that my students understood the lesson? Ask yourself that question. Instead of saying I have finished my lesson, I am done with the term, I am done with my topics. Instead of saying those things, ask yourself, what evidence do I have that this child understood what I taught him or her? Ask yourself that question. If that question is answered sincerely, then you might have to revisit the lesson in that term. Okay, so we move the next chapter. Oh, how you can become happy first year teacher. Now, teaching is a profession, but then it is a profession of continuous learning, continuous growth, continuous research, continuous discovery. It is you should in teaching you can never be saturated, because we learn every day. My father used to say that the day you stop learning, you become outdated. The day you stop learning, you become outdated. Thank God for his wisdom. Now, the principles I got from reading this book, I have that the principle becomes teachers develop competence through practicing. You practice it, you reflect on what you've learned. Now you support yourself, your colleagues. You get support from your colleagues, from the internet, anywhere, and you continue to learn. Never be too self-sufficient as a teacher. I think one of the profession I know that we are so humble is the teaching profession. Okay, we are so humble. So let us keep on with that. Know that you are to learn every day. You can learn from your colleague. You can learn what works from your colleague. Understand that. As a teacher also, a teacher does not need to be perfect on day one. You don't need to be perfect. Teachers are not perfect beings, though the society thinks we are perfect. But we are not perfect beings. We learn every day. There is room for growth in us. Now, the society might think we are perfect, but know that you are not perfect. But you must be committed to getting better. That is the difference. You are not perfect, yes, but you are committed to what? Getting better. Now, competence. Competence build confidence. Study manuals, study articles, study biographies, study whatever thing you want to study. Search for things, research for things. Okay, don't just be clouded with that knowledge you had before. Don't think this same knowledge you had before will still be useful today, right? Just discover more, discover more, discover more. Talk about the computer. We have first generation, second generation, third generation. If you don't understand this, you might think it ends in the third generation. Okay, but then you continue fourth generation, and we have the fifth generation, and it is evolving. It is everything in life is evolving. What you know before is now might be updated in your field. So then you need to be updated. Read books, Read about things before you come to your class. Before a child will ask a question that you won't understand, or you answer the question, but then with a misleading information or incomplete information. Okay, so we move to the application. How do we apply this thing as teachers? Build a culture where teachers can, as a school now, build a culture where teachers can observe one another. Please, this goes to the management. As a school, let us build a culture where teachers can observe one another. We did that last time where we asked ourselves to audit the book. We audit our notes. It was actually funny because we did not want to do it, but we had to do it, and that was that for that. So let us build a culture where teachers have to observe one another, not really the management, so that they see. Let me not talk about that one. Let me focus on what I'm saying. Now, share successful strategies. As a teacher, as a colleague, share your strategy with another struggling colleague. Share your strategy. What worked in your class? Share it with the next person. Ask for help as a teacher. Don't just say I am sufficient. No. Ask for help. Now receive constructive feedback. Receive constructive feedback. Reflect on lessons. Study educational practices and documentaries. Now learn from students' performance. Learn from your students. Learn from their performance. Learn from everything around you. Now, professional development should not be training we attend. Please, management, note that professional development should not just be the training we attend. It should become practice we implement. It should be we should have a schedule for professional development. Now, the next point we have here is professional growth becomes stronger when it is shared. Professional growth becomes stronger when it is what? Shared. Now, we can support ourselves as teachers. We can monitor, we can reflect, we can observe ourselves as teachers. We can go into professional learning, we can share successful practices. No teacher should feel alone in solving a classroom problem. One thing I know we've done in our school that is not really good at some point is sometimes we just try to play on ourselves, focus on our path. Like the synergy isn't really felt. And I think if we can synergize our professions, it will make more sense. Though I'm not teaching English, but then I need English teachers to survive in my class. That's the simple truth. I need English teachers to survive in my class. I don't know whether you get it. So there are some words I will use, and the English teacher has the right to tell me, please, this is not how it is being said, because it's not my field, but I have knowledge of it. I'm just giving an instance, please. So it should be allowed. It should be allowed, please. So moving to chapter 4, how to close student achievement gap. Now, student achievement gap is something we don't really at some point understand. Even if we understand it, we don't really know how to close it. Now, understand that every learner should make measurable progress. Every learner in your class should make measurable progress. That is why sometimes we take it a little bit downward. You don't just have to take everything peak by peak. No, sometimes you take it downward. Because the Bible says that at that same time, the children of Israel develop their roots downward. Sometimes you develop your roots downward. A child in your class needs to develop his or her roots downward sometimes, and afterwards with time to now come up. So even if you have to go a little bit downward on your studies or your lesson, so that for the sake of this particular child, it will actually be better. Okay, let it be that this child improved in this aspect, this child improved in this aspect. But if you don't understand, if you don't know where the child is, you wouldn't know where the child should go to. All fingers, they say they are not the same. So in reality, what do we have? There are students enter classroom with different backgrounds. We should know that different background knowledge, different reading abilities, different confidence level, different learning skills and speed, different home support, different previous academic experience. We should understand that. Once we understand these realities, it now moves us to our goal level, which is what is our goal? Do not wait for the final examinations to discover learning problems. Don't wait till test. Don't wait till CAT time. Don't wait till exam time to know the level whether the child understood or not. In my school, we practice weekend test, which is actually what I am happy for. And I love that. Every weekend, I'll write my test, I give my scores. And the child understands where he or she is. Don't just wait till exam before you now give your stuff. Now, moving to teachers, the next one, teachers should know the following. One, who is ahead? As a teacher, you should know who is ahead, who is on track, who is falling behind. Which skill is this child missing? As a teacher, these are the things you should look out for. You should understand this thing every week. This week, this child did this. This child became this. This child became this. This child was this. This child was that. Every week, if you have those data, these parameters, it will help you measure your growth in the class. Now, for the teachers, use classroom evidence to identify learning gaps early. Please try as much as possible to discover learning gaps early. Then, provide targeted support and check whether the support produces improvement. Whether the support you are using produces what? Improvement. Let it be known to you that you need to provide support for that learner, no matter what. You need to provide support to the learner. You can be the one to provide it, or you can recommend the support to the parents of the child, to the guardian of the child, so that they can follow up on the child. Don't just say, I've taught my own, the child does not want to understand. No. No. You are duty bound to help the child learn. If the child does not want to learn, you inspire the child, tell the child reason why to learn. That is what you should do. Okay? Now, to you, success should mean what? Measurable progress, not simply covering the school syllabus, the academic year, curriculum, and the rest. That should be your focus. Your focus should be on improvement. That is why I said earlier that covering scheme is not my thing. It's not my duty. I don't like it. I don't like it. I like my child to know something. At the end of the term, this is what the child could do. And that thing is not something I will do one time. I will do it this week. Even if I have to repeat it next week, I have to repeat it next week for the essence of growth in my class. I didn't just do it because the school is monitoring. And this goes to the school. Please give us, the teachers, the time. I know some teachers can be so legalistic in character and in action, but that shouldn't be also encouraged. What I'm saying is this: in a sincere scenario, please understand your employee. In a sincere scenario where a concept is being given or a complaint is being brought by the teacher, this child does not understand this. I've tried this. I'm trying this. Let them go back. Sometimes it's good to learn in progression. It's good to learn in progression. That should also be encouraged, please, so that teachers will not be rushed to cover up syllables, but then they should consciously teach and have measurable progress. Moving to the next point, I want to say also in the cycle of covering closing students' achievement gap. What do we do? A simple cycle. I'll give you a simple cycle for responding to learning gaps. Number one, identify. Now, what do? Use classwork, quizzes, assignments, and assessment to identify the gap. If you give a quiz after a lesson, maybe on Friday, like we do in our school, every Friday, weekend quiz, you discover, oh, this child had 10 over 10. Good. This child had 5 over 10. Good. This one had 4 over 10. 1 over 10. What made the difference? Why did this child have 1 over 10? Did the child come to the class? Did the child's notes complete? Not just complete. How attentive was the child? So as at that point you've discovered a gap. Why is this gap? So you must identify the gap first. Because like I said, you can't go to a goal if you don't know where you're starting from. Okay? Now, after which, diagnose. Find the specific skill or misconception causing the difficulty. I've said that already. Now, intervene. Provide targeted support matched to the learner's need. You can provide the support yourself, or you can assign the parents. You can send videos, you can send audios so that the child can easily watch and continue with the learning process. Now, after which, reassess. You've done number one, you've done number two, you've done number three. After that, reassess the child. Check whether the intervention proceed or produced an improvement. If it did not produce any improvement, you start from the number two again. Diagnose the child to know what really happened, because you've already identified the problem. So you move to the stage 3 or stage 2, which is what diagnosing. Diagnose to know what really happened. After you provide another intervention, and that should be that takes time. That takes time. That alone takes time. This is why you shouldn't rush your scheme. Then the next thing you need to do is to document. After we document the records of the progression, document the records of the progression, and decide what next step to take. Now, listen, practice this. Every child or every teacher should know which students need support, what they need, what support is being provided, and whether the support you're providing is actually working. Every teacher should know this thing. So move to chapter 5. Why you should use proven teaching skills. Move from what you know to what is globally accepted. Now, take note of this, please. Something might be globally practiced, but in your scenario, in your case, or in your class case, it is not achievable. Now, you are free as a teacher to bring on your concept or creativity to action. But then, listen, move from this is how I teach, this is how I used to teach, this is how I do my own, this is how I like to do it, to this is what helps students learn. That is, learn from other teachers, please. Even not in your school, all over the world. Learn what works. Don't just say you are, no, don't just say you are enough. Your method works. Your method might work for a grade 3 pupils, but doesn't work for a grade 4 pupil. Please take note of that. Your skills, your learning, your teaching skills might work for this class, but is not appropriate for this class. So that's when you need to do what? Adjust, readjust, learn every day. Okay? It might work for you and doesn't work for a student. It might be what you like, but does not have really proof learning. So you need to do what? Adjust. What is the principle I learned from the book? Do not rely only on tradition, personal preference, or the way you were taught. The writer said that there is no great educator that says that this is the pattern of teaching that works. No, because the writer understood that or knows that this method might work for this set of learners, but it might not work for this set of learners. You know, some schools will tell you this is how we do it in our school. But you as a teacher, if you understand that this method you are using, which is applicable or which the school assigns, does not work, please, you can also write the school or talk to the management of the school while telling them why they need to do what, change the method, or what they need to do effectively to work with this method. Okay? That will help you. Now, ask this question. Is this practice helping my students learn? I always ask yourself that question. This thing I am doing, is it actually, because the goal is for them to learn. That is the goal of a teacher, to produce learners. The goal of effective teacher is to produce learners. Okay? Now, if that is the goal, ask yourself, this practice, is it helping the learners learn? Or is it just me doing my thing for the sake of salary, for the sake of coming out, for the sake of passion? Sometimes good intentions aren't good enough. So you need to ask yourself a series of questions. Now, look for evidence through participation, understanding, practice, feedback, and improved performance. You participate in, go for seminars, go for professional development skills, understand things, okay? Put them into work. Get feedback from parents, get feedback from teachers, your colleagues, get feedback from the school management, get feedback from this, even the students, and improve yourself. Improve your teaching skill. Don't just be a one-way teacher, please. Okay. Now, in terms of high impact practices, we need to do what? We can build a shared school-wide toolkit. Okay, that goes to the school management now. We can build a shared school-wide toolkit around so many things, but then clear learning objectives, explicit instruction, guided practicing or practices or practice. Now we can have effective questioning session, student participation, formative assessment, feedback assessment, differentiation or differentiated support, and reflection concept that will help the child or the teacher grow and become much more better. Now, this is my take on everything I have read on this book from chapter 1 to chapter 5. Listen, we have that great teaching does not happen by accident. It is done intentionally. Great teaching does not happen by chance. It does not happen by luck. Teachers are not lucky to teach. They follow protocols. They follow concepts. They follow what works. Okay? So while you are doing that, and while we are being more intentional, you do what? Prepare deliberately. Prepare yourself what? Deliberately. That means your lesson plan should be well prepared, your class routines, your materials, and likely difficulties before students' arrival. What are those likely difficulties that might arise in your class? Because you're in the honor of the class, you know how your class works. So you check out for those things and prepare to attack them. Prepare to arrest them. Now set clear expectations. Let your learners understand these things. Make success visible through explicit academic and what? Behavioral expectations. Build systems. Teach procedures so the classroom does not depend on constant correction. Build systems. Build systems. Let the children also understand the system. Now monitor learning. Check understanding. Identify gaps and respond before problems grow. Don't pamper the problem. Stop it before it happens. Keep improving. Now reflect, learn as a person from colleagues, from students, from parents, from the school management, and adjust appropriately. Okay? Now use what works. Use what works. That is in chapter 5. Use what works. Prefer evidence-informed practices over habit or personal preferences. Prefer evidence-informed practices over habits or personal preferences. It's not about you, please. As a teacher, it's not about you. It's all about what works. So what should be the standard? I plan it, I thought it, I checked it, I improved on it, and what? Ensure what? Learning took place. Okay, now we have the last point, which is my suggestions for the school. Now for chapter 1 that says start strong, I have that you should do what? Common class procedures and opening week expectations should be met or set. And we have chapter 2 which talk about teach effectively. Now I have that positive expectations plus classroom management plus learning or lesson mastery gives you effective teaching. Now chapter 3 which talks about keep growing, that is improving yourself as a person. Now for you to achieve that, you have to monitor and colleague or peer observation. I'm using the peer or colleague please, and professional learning. Learn from people who have been ahead of you, learn from them, study their books, how they did it, and the rest. Chapter 4, meaning the gap, achievement gap, so close the gaps. Now I have that you need to identify the gap, support the gap, reassess the person afterwards, and document struggling learners. If it keeps happening, you can meet the management. Now chapter 5, which talks about use what works. Use what works. So share evidence. That is informed evidence, please. Share evidence-informed practices and implementation monitoring. Now, use what works, meaning you should do what? Share evidence that works, not just any evidence. Make sure that from all sincerity and all starting points that this thing actually worked. Okay? Now, for me as a teacher, this is what I would do. I will not simply enter the classroom and teach. Please, I will prepare. I will establish systems in my class. I will expect success. It's something I have envisioned, something I have seen. So I expect it from all my learners. Now I will monitor learning. That is me talking now to myself. I will monitor learning. I will respond to struggling learners. Okay? And I will grow with them. I will grow with them. I will be so intentional about growing with them and use practices that produced or produces results for next time. That is what I have. So please, if you have any question, you're free to ask me. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it.